Hey everybody, it's BJ.
And Patrick.
And we're back talking all things real estate, and get ready because the government is coming to save the real estate world.
Oh yeah, because there's a housing shortage, there's a housing crisis. And this time we're talking about Chrystia Freeland, our Deputy Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, has announced new actions to encourage building of secondary suites.
Well, before we get into that, one action that you can take that will encourage us and help us is give us a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. We are putting out a pile of regular content and lots of good information and some fun stuff too. So let's go.
Well, the government, it seems that every other week there's a new announcement, right?
Sure.
And this just feels like another one of those where you just throw enough spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, right?
Yeah.
So now they're encouraging people that have lived in their home and allowing them to refinance their home at a maximum of 90% of their equity. Now, of course, if you go 90% of your equity, which is sort of unusual if you're going to refinance or a line of credit against your house, it's usually up to 80%.
Yeah, 70%.
If not less than that, depending on who you're talking with. So that would trigger getting mortgage insurance again on your property if you max it out, right?
Yeah.
In order for you to build a secondary suite in your property. Now, I'll read it first and then I'll get into what I think about this because some of it seems a little illogical. Okay. Okay. Homeowners, right? They're doing everything they can to solve this shortage in housing crisis affordability thing. Homeowners can now refinance their current mortgage and construct a secondary suite with borrowers, can't talk, able to access up to 90% of the home's value, including the value of the extra suite. So I guess they would be planning your market analysis, your assessment, your appraisal would be based on if it had an existing suite.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you still have to accomplish that once they give you the money, right?
Yeah.
Or you borrow the money. The borrower will be able to amortize the refinance mortgage over a period of 30 years. The federal government also said it's increasing the mortgage insurance home price limit to $2 million for those refinancing to build a secondary suite. So there was a recent announcement for CMHC that they will insure high ratio mortgages up to $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is we just had that announcement 2 weeks ago, and now another 2 weeks, so we have more changes. Okay, saying this will ensure homeowners can access their refinancing in all housing markets across Canada. And the quote from Freeland would be, we must use every possible tool to build more homes and make housing affordable for every generation of Canadians, Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland said in a press release.
So I have a question.
So that is the highlights.
Yeah, but let me just ask a question based on that statement that she just made.
Yeah.
Okay. How does building 3 or 2 or however many suites attached to your home make it that you already own? How does that make housing affordable for other people?
Right, this could be a laneway house, it could be a detached suite, it could be something like this.
Sure, but my point is...
You're inadvertently increasing the value of the existing
product.
Correct.
That's correct. Because
and
you
making
already...
it more unattainable to somebody else.
Well, because you already live in it, you're able to take out enough equity to build on or convert something into a suite. Wonderful. But how does that help you, the new or the first-time home buyer, buy that home? Or buy a home?
Well, it will allow to create more spaces for people to occupy.
To rent, sure.
To rent, yeah. So,
but I'm just in reference to what she just said in that statement. Her statement is with regards to
making housing more affordable. Well, making housing, does that mean ownership or does that mean renting? And I think that's kind of both.
Yeah, I guess in that context, I think of ownership. But obviously, for that to make sense, then she's talking about also from a rental capacity.
Yeah, I think I think this is to encourage people that have sort of an unused basement or an unfinished basement to to make it easier for them to finance and spread the payments out over a longer period of time, and be able to provide housing for people. That's I think that's a wonderful idea if it makes it easier if somebody is so inclined to. Now think about this: you've got your own home, right? And maybe it has an unfinished basement. And you've got some stuff in there that you really probably haven't looked at in the last 10 years, and it's
Sure.
just collecting dust.
Yeah.
And you're enjoying your peace and quiet of well, it's going to be a few years for you still before you're an empty nester, right? And I'm sure you're not going to kick your daughter out when she's turned 18. Like, there's probably
Sure.
no rush to leave, right?
Yeah.
But to turn your house into like an apartment complex,
Yeah.
you already own your house, and you could afford your house. It's not a case of an affordability for the owner that already is existing in that space.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking
to
about.
take on.
Yeah.
Let's pretend that they're already 15, 20 years into their mortgage. They're starting to pay off more principal than ever before.
Yeah.
They're past the halfway mark in the life of their mortgage.
Right.
And yes, it would increase the value of the property by having a suite, because the argument is it's easier for somebody else to purchase that property at a higher price because they would have a rental income to like a mortgage helper to help them.
Right.
But where's the desire once you have a house with no rent, no tenant in it? I haven't rented my suite for like at least 10 years now.
Right.
Are you kidding me? That's the last thing I want in my house. Would I enjoy a little bit more money? I see how much more the rent is. Like, I'd be laughing if I was collecting rent.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be living for free in my house if I rented my suite out, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, that's the last thing I want in my house is a tenant, let alone add 4 rental suites, like to live in an apartment building. This is not the Canadian dream. The Canadian dream, I think, is to own your own, own space where you don't have to stress about your neighbors, and you don't have to hear like, some domestic dispute or whatever, the dog barking or depending where you are in your life. Some people are starting off in their lives, in their journey, and they're starting a family. I already went through 4 babies, right? We went through the screaming and getting up at night, and the stomping. Like, the youngest girl, she's got like the heaviest feet running up and down the living room. Like, she's like an elephant. She's so tiny. She stomps. You could hear it like pretty loud.
Right.
Of course, at the time I had a deaf tenant.
Okay.
So it was like, I'm still stressing about the noise the kids are making for my tenants, so they're not upset, right?
Yeah.
So,
Here's the thing.
I think somebody can take advantage of it.
Sure.
Of this to turn a house into like a 4-plex, 5-plex, triplex, whatever.
Sure.
But
chances are they're not going to live in it.
Chances are they're not going to live in it.
Or they're going to convert themselves back into just having a suite that they live in. They rent everything else out. They're basically covering all of their expenses and costs and everything else. And that's their livelihood, is renting out all the units in their home.
Yeah, possibly. I can see somebody as entering into the marketplace, and a house has potential to be converted into, so many suites. Like, I looked at a place last week. It had 4 suites, but it was kind of messed up. The house is 100 years old. It was converted in 1950 to an apartment building. It was a 3-plex, and then 15 years later, in 1965, it was converted into 5 units, and now it's remaining as a 4-unit, sort of non-conforming. I guess it was like before incorporation of the city or something. It wasn't really that organized, or up to code or up to date right now. But if somebody got in there and said, "Hey, look, well, I've got 3 other units I can rent out. I can live in the whatever suite that they fit in, and then turn around and take advantage of this program, and build it into an asset that you're going to move out of, because you're not going to, you're probably going to start a family. You're probably going to meet somebody. You're probably not going to stay in that property, but at least if you build it into something, it could be a great way to start like a long-term asset for yourself.
Yeah.
That can grow over time,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So, as much as I think it's a silly idea for the average person,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to desire to have a suite in their house.
Well, I think the only way that you would absolutely want to do that, because let's go back to what you just said too, because if you've already taken care of your mortgage or you're well on the way, why would you want to add a suite? Right? If you,
let's say for me, I'm 10 years out, or I'm 7 years out
yeah,
from paying the whole thing off.
Right.
Why would I go back at the beginning of the race
Right.
and start paying 90% interest?
right. Okay. So and to me, that's the biggest thing right there. But the other is, I think the people that would look to take advantage of it will be investors.
Yeah.
Right. So
I
they're
can see
looking
that.
they're looking to buy a property now. Now they're looking at a property and saying, okay, I'm buying this property to turn it into a multiple rental property. And I think we went through this whole thing where, it's all the investors that are destroying the market and all of these things. Well,
Now they're going to encourage it.
right.
Right?
Right.
There's more. There's other programs that go right back to this. It's like, oh, wait a minute, we're going to encourage like building a suite. But like in that way, it's like, well, you're supporting the landlord, but you're not supporting the landlord in tenancy laws. And I know those are provincial things.
Yeah.
So if it's Ontario or BC, like, we have horrible, the laws are slanted towards the tenants.
Yeah.
Right?
Extensively so. Yeah.
Extensively so. So, that's a bit of a challenge right there for investors. And the way it's worded is like it's a primary residence. So it's not going to be an absentee landlord unless you move in, you take advantage of the program and then move out. Which
Right.
I don't know if there's a penalty, but
Or maybe they just do the 6-month or 1-year term of living in the property.
renovate this thing, put in 4 suites.
Yeah. Live in it for a year, but bring in the 4 people and,
Here's the trick, right? So if it has a potential of putting in 4 suites,
yeah.
plus you have the main suite, so you have a total of 5 units in the property, and they're going to evaluate it based on it being finished.
Mm-hmm.
What is the current value of today of all of those suites done, and then give you 90% of your up to 90% of your equity.
Right.
They're likely going to give you the money.
Yeah.
As long as you go through with this, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's a bit of a trick to get the money.
Sure.
I think this might be a really great way to make housing more expensive, right? So, which of course we already, for BC, they're already talking about like, well, we don't want any more single family zoning anymore. It's pretty much it's not a wash. It's sort of deceptive, right?
Yeah.
Single family houses aren't going to go away.
No.
But they're going to be an endangered species.
I'll be interested to see where that really goes, if there's enough traction for that to get anywhere.
Current OCPs will allow like redevelopment along transit routes already.
Yeah.
Like these stupid laws that I'm going to say that the BC NDP is like blanket zoning of areas to like, oh yeah, you can put a 4-plex or a 6-plex on any, sizable single family lot. You know what? The cities were already looking at, these are the areas that we would like to do it. And then it just went back to, we would encourage densification along transit corridors anyways.
Yeah.
So it's just more of the same, but
Yeah.
like they're just
I think the thing
rehashing
is,
it.
here's
Getting
what we know.
sidetracked, but
Here's what we know. We know that it's election time. It's election time in British Columbia. I'm not sure what province you're in.
Oh yeah, we can vote today.
Oh, yeah.
Early voting.
Early voting. That's right. Yep. I just need to go find out where I go. Because I do want to go to early voting. I'm not interested in lining up on day of. So
Yeah. Don't forget to vote.
But that's a big thing for you, wherever you're watching from. There's elections coming up in the U.S. There's elections coming up here provincially. There's going to be a federal election coming up at some point here.
Yeah, maybe
Right.
maybe earlier than next November, like next year.
Yeah. So I just say this to encourage everybody to vote. We have the privilege and responsibility of voting in a democratic country, because that's still not the case in other parts of the world. So take advantage of that, and make your voice heard, make your voice count. You might say, well, what's the point? What's my vote going to do? It does something, right? So yeah, you know what? Go ahead and do that. I know we've rambled over and back a little bit, but I think it just goes to show I appreciate that the government is trying to do something. I think the track record is we see policy that's often not well, for whatever reason, not well thought out. That they have allowed something or incorporated something and then said after the fact, gee, this didn't really work. This didn't do what we thought it would do. Whereas in a lot of cases, the business sector has been saying that's not going to work. And when they figure it out, it's like this huge revelation. And instead, you could have just talked to stakeholders in the process. Whether it's in business, I've seen, some of that kind of same thing with medical stuff and so on and so on. So I appreciate that somebody's trying to do something, but you know,
they do consult with stakeholders.
they just don't listen to them. You can consult with them for the sake of saying we've consulted with the stakeholders.
I've been there, done that, and it feels like such a waste of time.
Yeah.
When they don't even consider what you said.
They'll consult, but they won't listen to anything, or they'll give you lip service, but they won't actually take what you've done and try to look at what are the ramifications of this, good, bad, should we incorporate this, whatever the case might be. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So this policy, on the last note, I believe is starting January 15th.
Okay. All right. So we shall see. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you for joining us today. If you haven't, give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.